Hi, it's me, Ranjit. If you enjoyed this episode, I request you to leave us a review. This will help us to reach more great podcast listeners like you. Thank you. Hello, welcome to the 7th episode of FS Brew, where we talk about interesting events, news, and products from the world of insurance and financial services. I'm Ranjit Philip. I advise startups on their business models, go-to-market strategies, funding, and financials. I'm deeply interested in the fintech, Insurtech, DeFi space, having been in the financial services for too long. I'm joined by my co-host, Vidya. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Ranjit. Hello, I'm Vidya, and I'm the founder of Forward, an advisory firm for insurance companies tackling all things digital, marketing, and customer experience.
Great to have you back. Vidya, who are we meeting today?
Actually, today is a very exciting episode. Today, we get into the insights and mindset and what it takes to undergo digital transformation for a global insurance company in the region that is currently going through acquisition. Welcome to this exciting conversation with Siddhaarth Iyer, Head of Digital of AXA Gulf.
Welcome to FS Brew. We are very delighted to welcome Siddhaarth Iyer, or Sid, as I call him. Sid is a startup guy turned corporate with a wide experience in creating amazing digital journeys for customers in varied industries like insurance, agriculture, healthcare, government, and procurement tech. Sid has been a digital tech guy throughout his career, a very short career, or a slightly long career of 13 years. But we'll get into that a little bit. And he holds multiple approved US innovation patents in utility and the tech space. And the products that have been built by him are being used by more than 3 million users across multiple countries. So welcome, Sid. This is
Thank you.
A great honor. We are happy to have you here. One of the things we do is we first ask our hosts, how they got into the insurance business. Now, insurance is not a place where everybody says, hey, I want to work in insurance, but we all enjoy it once you're inside. So how did you get into this profession? We'd love to know.
Thank you, Ranjit, for the nice introduction. Much appreciated. And thank you for inviting me over for this chat. I mean, it would be very cliched saying that it was accidental, but insurance, nothing was planned. I mean, I've been a digital guy. I've worked across multiple domains. I've taken pride in the fact that I can get the learnings of some other domain into the domain that I'm actually getting into. So I try not to repeat my domains. So, and that also helps kind of manage the competition kind of space. At the same time, insurance AXA just happened. I was working with an agri-tech company in India, building their products. I was a chief product and technology officer out there. And then this opportunity came about where it was to lead the digital team here at AXA Gulf. And it was excellent. It was one of the best opportunities that I could find to make a change. I know and the other part was I felt that insurance was a space which had a lot of opportunities to make changes to. Having done that with agriculture, specifically in India, engaging a lot of large users and making a change there, I realized that, I can repeat that challenge in another domain. So I think insurance was very natural where, unlike banking, it kind of lags behind sometimes in adoption because of the legacy systems and regulations and other things. And I felt that opportunity was something that I could really capitalize on, and that's the reason why I got into this space.
Fantastic.
Lovely. So I think now that you are in the insurance, and now the most obvious question is, how has COVID really impacted your business in the Middle East? And you don't have to talk any specific numbers, but how has it been in terms of an impact?
So it's got the good and the bad attached to it, right? The COVID piece, because you are anticipating more claims. The bad part is that you're anticipating more claims. You're expecting people to fall sick, and unfortunately, COVID has got catastrophic effects, fatal effects. Also manage those kind of claims. But at the same time, I believe that COVID really changed the way people buy products in general, right? I mean, leave it insurance. So I think that impact of how people buy products also kind of has had a trickle effect on insurance, specifically in less, I wouldn't say less mature online markets. I would evolving online markets like UAE or this region in general. Where the buying experience online is still evolving, we saw a huge change. So we saw a lot more traffic online. We saw a lot more buying online. We saw a lot of servicing capabilities that we had to build online suddenly. And of course, the regulations also started changing. We started seeing a regulation in UAE. We started seeing a regulation in Bahrain, in Oman, where the regulators expected us to start having portals, having online capabilities, having online renewal capabilities. All of this kind of changed the landscape of how people looked at digital. Mm-hmm. Before this, I mean, everybody felt that just have a simple form out there and people will call you back. And then I'll have this digital connectivity, right? So digital to physical to digital, right?
It was a nice to have.
Yeah, it was just a nice to have. It was just a check. It was not even a check. I wouldn't call it a checkbox as well, right? It was just half checkbox. Yeah. But slowly, as COVID hit, it started to kind of pick up, because if you were not online, you were not relevant.
Correct.
And the kind of segments that we look at, like the motor insurance segment, the home and the travel insurance. Travel was, of course, really impacted because of no travel. But the motor segment is heavily. It's a heavy competition segment. So everybody's trying to get you as a customer, and it was pretty interesting to see how you could be smart in your campaigns, how you could be smart in your pricing, how you could be smart in your segmentation. I think the difference was how to segment your customers smartly so that you can provide preferred pricing to certain segments the way you want to do it. I mean, that's how insurance works, right? So I think that's the way. That was the difference for us. We evolved as an organization during COVID times, and also I think the customer behavior has changed, and we had to adapt to that customer behavior. People started not calling us on 800-292. People started going onto our website axa.ae. We saw a crazy amount of traffic. Even though the call centers were open, we were the only company which had call centers open throughout. Not everybody could actually have call centers open. We had a setup for all our agents to take calls. But it was just that we saw calls, but we again saw a lot of traffic on the website. And I think I attributed to more of a change of behavior. At the same time, the market became more competitive in certain spaces, in certain areas. So it was, again, difficult, but at the same time, it was, as a digital guy, super rewarding, because what else than to see customers using your products, right? And not just having one dead funnel and having to just look at it once a year and say, oh, we had 5% conversion.
Yeah, so, correct. No,
it's probably
dynamic.
It was probably the investments put in earlier on paid off, especially people who had the foresight. And you touched upon it briefly. Any special spurts in terms of health and life, as you would expect, from a customer behavior point of view? And did your marketing also adapt to that change, or did you say, I'm just going to ride the wave?
No, I think we did see life. I can't necessarily speak about because I don't have visibility there. But on the health side, yes. So the individual health saw a spike. The number of inquiries specifically on individual health rose because there are people who are on the basic plans, right? Like the DHA mandated plans or the absolute bare minimum plan. In many cases, and they just saw a need to upgrade because they needed to kind of get a better product because in case of exigencies. So we did see that, and instantly products are always evolving, right? These products are being evolved based on customer feedback and customers' behavior. That is the buying behavior online as well as the offline buying behavior, because we have the tools to measure that. And we were open to evolving it. Travel insurance, we've been very smart in evolving the travel insurance product as well. Classic case, just moving away from health. specifically post the end of the, or maybe we're still not at the end of the pandemic, but recently we launched 6 months back. We launched an offer on the travel insurance where we spoke about upload your vaccine certificate and you get a 20-30% discount.
Yeah.
So we've been smart to kind of utilize some of these tools, if you may say, that customers will get and which are very natural for customers to have as they start to travel. Again, on the topic of health did see a spike in terms of the number of individual health quotations as well as buying behavior. Again, because health is a regulated product, in our market, specifically in the UAE market. In the other markets, it's just starting to be regulated slowly. When I say regulated, mandatory, it's a mandatory product for us.
Yeah, like in Oman and all that.
Like in Oman is slowly going there. Bahrain has already started the process. Same for Qatar. We did see that more and more people wanted to not just go for the basic plan, but for a little better than the basic plan. Right. So it was just not about checking the box for them. It was about really looking at protection. And as marketing, the focus was also not to just push customer. I think it was more about not to just push customers to buy, but give them the sense of comfort that you are covered and we are taking care of you as you buy insurance from us. So the funnels had messaging around COVID-19, our fine print had messaging about COVID-19, just to make customers comfortable that we are here for you. And I think it's, as a brand and as a bunch of people that we are in the organization, we are always focusing on the customer. So we want empathy first before revenue and other things. Because if you're empathetic towards the customer, normally the customers will gravitate towards you rather than you trying to just show the numbers in an offer. And we've seen that across the line of across lines of businesses and products. The closer you are to the customer's needs, the easier for your customers to adapt and adopt to you as a brand.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So in fact, if we can just dive a little deeper into that behavior piece, what are some of the business drivers or customer drivers very unique to the UAE market specifically, whether in terms of products, whether in terms of customer choice or regulations? If you could talk through that, that'd be great.
So it's. I mean, I'll talk about motor because motor is such an interesting product to speak about, and everybody wants to talk about motor, right?
Yeah, sure.
Again, let's look at UAE specifically, and I'll talk about all the other countries as well because we touch upon it so much. I think one of the most unique things I like about this region is the population and the mix of the population, right? I mean, it's just the fact that you have so many different people coming from different experiences in motor, if you may call it driving experiences, that you have a mix. I mean, the risk automatically increases, right? Because you have people who have learned in a certain pattern and a way, and not all of them have gone through the necessary rigorous trainings and the failures of having not got a license in these regions quickly, right? So when you start writing risk for some of these segments, and when you start writing risks, or basically based on where they come from, where they got their first license country from, these kind of variations don't happen in other countries, right? So this is absolutely native to just this region and the way this region actually works. It's a very interesting bit because you get so much data and you get to see, and after that data, when you start analyzing the claims rate, the claims based on that segment, you can actually start to build lookalike audience and understand how these people can be actually catered to. At the same time, start marketing to a specific audience that you want to target, right? Yeah. These things you would not do it in India. In India, you don't even need to give you just need to give your name, but you don't need to actually understand the driving behavior. You get it from the NCD or NCB in India. So I think some of these things are very unique and very interesting. And of course, the regulators are also pushing us to do more of these, especially in case of the motor insurance. Again, this uniqueness makes us look at it very innovatively. How do you innovate with all these constraints when you can have a buying funnel where customers can start a quote in 1 minute and buy in 3 minutes? right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of goals that because you are asking enough a number of questions. Unlike UK, of course, UK is one of the more complex markets where a lot of questions are being asked. But we have customers coming from India, coming from Philippines, Malaysia, where the funnels are very simple and very straightforward. You just give 4 or 5 answers, another 7 answers for buying, and then you're done. So we started to think, how do we replicate some of these things that are done in the other markets to ease the customer pain point and make sure that the metric is very clear, right?
Wow.
Quote in a minute, buy in 3.
Okay.
Right? That was our concept. That was my motto, is that the fastest I get a customer to quote with us, that means I get a lead from the customer. The easier for my either from my physical or my traditional channels to call back and convert the customer with a faster and a better discount, with a faster move and a better discount, and above all of that, also to see if the customer wants to go forward, right? So we are tracking the customer behavior and the metric all along. The second part is, of course, the regulatory part, right? The regulatory part about having to register your car every year.
Yeah.
One, having the 13 especially in Dubai and of course in UAE, the 13-month insurance versus the 12-month insurance. These are very unique.
Yeah.
Absolutely unique to your specific region. You wouldn't see it anywhere else. You wouldn't see it in the US. You wouldn't see it in India. You wouldn't see it in Japan. This is so unique, and you have to make sure that the product is built specifically for it. So, for example, we've been discussing, and everybody's been discussing, and I was discussing with Ranjit the other day, pay-as-you-go model, right?
Yeah.
For the pay-as-you-go model, we need to, the regulation has to be also ready for it, right? We have to start thinking how does it get impacted? If you have to pay as you go, I have to upload an insurance certificate on a monthly basis and not on a yearly basis. How does that happen? So how does the customer see that, right? And if the customer does not pay, do we have to intimate the Etihad Bureau? Things like this, where you actually start to look at it in a larger perspective. And if the customer doesn't pay, he can get fined by RTA immediately because there was no update to the insurance. Some of these things still have to evolve as a region, right? And when you see some of the more sophisticated products, as they come into the region, the regulations have to evolve as well. So the uniqueness stays. But again, if we have to get some of the more innovative pieces here, the innovative products, parametric insurance, or if you talk about specifically about pay-as-you-go, drive-as-you-go, or pay-as-you-drive insurances, the regulations have to evolve as well. So I hope that answers the question if I got it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And, since we talked about the regulations and customer choice, etc., and we did deep dive into the motor space, so that helps us ask this question. You've got so many aggregators now peddling motor insurance. Many insurtechs also starting to talk about insurance and other motor and other products. What do you think is then, therefore, the future business model for insurers? Seeing that so many players are coming in, and when you mix in the change or lack of change in regulations, how will this evolve in your view?
Yeah.
So it's a very tough question to answer because it's absolutely evolving every month that I see it, right? So it's not just the aggregators, it's also the traditional brokers wanting to become aggregators now, online aggregators, rather than the traditional aggregators that they were already. Right? So more and more brokers you see them wanting to have an online channel, they want to quote online. I think there has been movement in terms of the regulation around online brokers. I think we already know some of the regulations which have been laid out last year from an online regulations for IA perspective. Yeah. Bahrain was one of the first movers to provide e-broker license to some of the guys already. Oman has got some small aggregators, but they're doing good. And I think Qatar similar. I believe if you really look at it, it is a price sensitive market. So aggregators will thrive, will not just survive, they will thrive and they will exceed here. If you look at any of the big aggregators today, like the Policy Bazaar and all, they've got specific funding just for the expansion in this region. So there is great potential, right, in the region as well. In terms of how do we compete, I think it's the quality of service that is going to define the difference. It's going to make the difference at the end of the day, right? So the QoS is what we have to constantly measure. You can try to beat yourself on the price, but you will never get as close based on your cost efficiencies. Not all companies can get to the level of cost efficiencies and reduce the cost of product, and then eventually have overhead cost reduced, and manage to be providing at the same level of some of the other insurers. So as we see tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 insurers, the tier 1 insurers have been very, very, very wary of actually going on online aggregators. So if you really see today, online aggregators don't have a lot of tier 1 insurers. Rather, none of them have tier 1 insurers, right? When I say tier 1, I'm talking about the large ones. So I'm talking about AXA. We present in one of them, but not really big. But AXA or RSA or Oman Insurance, these Adnic, these guys are not necessarily present as much, but eventually I think people will move towards the aggregate. I think they'll gravitate towards the aggregator market because of the amount of marketing dollars that is spent by these aggregators to pull traffic to them. So eventually aggregators already are getting a lot of traffic. And eventually, I think people will get forced to be on some of these aggregators, depending on which ones survive. I think the aggregators also will go through a churn where some of them will survive, some of them will not survive, and you will see that. The second part of your question is how Insurtech. So I think from a future model standpoint, I do believe that, see, we've been looking at the Bemas and the Halas of the world, right? How they actually work, and they're becoming more of a front-end gig, right? It's more of a customer acquisition gig. I think it's important an insurer will only partner with someone who's got the traffic.
Yeah.
No insurer is going to come and tell you that, okay, you start online channel and you build traffic over a period of time.
Right.
Nobody's going to do that to you. So unless we see income, because that already destabilizes your existing relationships, and it kind of makes it very complicated for your existing channels to sustain, right? So unless you have a strong user base that you can actually market it to, people are not going to. So it's all about. So when you talk about when we speak about insurtechs, I think every insurance company will have to become an insurtech on their own. I think you will have to have a small insurtech division or a nimble, quick turnaround IT team internally who will do some of these things that otherwise an external insurtech would do for you. But there are insurtechs which are, I'm not going to talk about just customer acquisition, but the servicing elements, like, for example, claims education. What Addenda was trying to do before, and if it was a good, strong paid model, I think it would have stood ground, and it would have been an absolute game-changing opportunity for all the other regions as well. I mean, all the other 4 or 5 countries in the region as well. I think there's a clear gap in that space, and it would have done really well. Again, it's a complicated space, and I know Daniel and the team tried hard, and they were doing very well. We connected with them as well. So when you talk about insurtechs, I like to speak more about not the customer acquisition side, because that problem is kind of solved already, right? Because unless and until you have a strong incumbent base of customers to market your product to, there's no point trying to create another one, because whatever funding you are going to take, you're going to end up spending on bringing traffic to your funnel, and not necessarily improving your product working with the insurance company and building the tech, right? Building the tech part is very easy because the insurance company does the rating as well as the policy issuance piece. You're just actually building a funnel to get people in, to be honest, and then creating the martech to actually improve that funnel. But if I may see, the real game changers are going to be on the product side. Insurtechs were focusing on the product. Like, for example, parametric insurance. I was talking to my head of claims the other day, and he spoke about Blink Parametrics, which is into the travel insurance the parametric insurance, travel focused, where they are talking about, once let's say your flight is late, immediately you get a message saying that your flight has been delayed. As an insurance company, we provide you a business class lounge access today just for you to go in and actually take the business class. Amazing, right? I mean, what else do you want? Because you actually try to treat the customer like a king, even though the flight was late, and you know that the customer is going to always renew with you.
Yeah. Finally, the customer sees the value of insurance, it's being paid out, and you don't need to really talk to claims people or anything like that. It's automatic. It's just an if then else statement, right? So that's the beauty of parametric.
And it's both ways, right? And it's both ways. The point is, I don't have to get anybody to focus on that. It's a small enough intervention. If I don't want to call it a claim, it's an intervention.
Yeah.
And it is easy it's easy for the customer as well, because before half the time you wouldn't realize, even if you have a travel insurance, that you have to go make a claim. Right. Here, without having to do a claim, you actually were proactive to tell the customer, you know what, your flight got delayed by 2 hours. We would like to give you this business class lounge pass. Please go enjoy, and we are happy to serve you in future as well. So these are the things where I think Insurtech will make a change. And of course, there are challenges around OCR. AI. We'll speak about it probably in some of the coming questions. I'll probably touch upon it a little bit. Where again, insurance companies are looking for support. Right? We are not companies who are going to build our vision bots, computer vision. We won't build computer vision bots ourselves. We will work with somebody to build that. And I think these are areas where, if there are insurance specific templates, if there are insurance specific focus areas that Insurtech can get along, and we having been part of the DIFC FinTech Accelerator program as well, I have seen some of these coming through, but I've not seen them standing the test of time and staying with the customers and wanting to acquire customers beyond that, right? So I think it's important to see that, and these are areas that I feel Insurtech can really work with us. And again, I'm coming in from an insurer perspective. I'm not, of course, coming in thinking like an Insurtech. I'm sure they might see the other opportunities, but I do see opportunities in areas beyond customer acquisition for Insurtech.
Yeah, got it. Vidya?
In the recent past, we've seen some phenomenal work coming from AXA digital space. Can you speak more about what it takes to succeed in digitally transforming an incumbent insurance company in the UAE market? It's quite a challenge. So what has been your experience to date?
So I'm just going to summarize it in one line. Speak less, do more.
Great. Mic drop.
And some absolutely. So I think it's very simple. Speak less, do more. I think it's less to be speaking about digital transformation. We all know it's required. I don't call it digital transformation anymore. There's no transformation. You have to do it. It's just digital mandate.
Yeah.
Everybody should have a mandate saying that I need to take my brand digital. And I don't expect digital to start at just digital marketing. I don't expect digital to be midway at digital building of digital products, and I don't expect it to end with only analysis. It has to be the end-to-end piece. So from the time you acquire the customer digitally to the time you actually analyze the behavior and have the customer close the transaction or service themselves online is, for me, digital. So people speak about the word transformation and digital transformation a lot. I'm not a big fan of it. I do keep it very simple, especially in my team, in my organization. I try to make sure that we have the right expertise internally to support us through the journey of building great digital products. And I look at it as building digital products and then transforming. You do transform existing business processes and stuff. I'm not denying it. But if I have to look at it from a customer's perspective, it's all about building a winning experience for the customer. If the customer sees what you have, if the customer can feel what your brand can be through the digital channel, that's all. You have a winning strategy.
Agreed.
Thanks, Sid. But in terms of having the right sort of mindset and the right psyche, which is so important to go through the transformation, could you talk through about that? How did you go about internally managing that and transforming the organization the way it is at this point?
I think just to go beyond and to answer your question beyond the points that I already mentioned, that of course there's a lot of, when I say that act a lot more, talk less, there's a lot of background work that goes into like setting up the entire environment to enable that kind of speed or agility. I think the way we went about it was to actually build some digital champions internally. So we asked each and every leader to identify who are their digital champions. And the kind of criteria we put around it was people who had the bend for digital, who could think, I'm not saying the others who were not part of it, did not necessarily have the bend, but people who are more bent towards thinking thinking digitally, thinking about innovative solutions for the customer, people who could think from a customer's perspective, somebody who's very close to the customer, maybe one person who's very close to the customer. So we kind of got a set of people who are very dynamic in their own space, right? And that dynamism is what helps you kind of break the existing silos that exist, right? I mean, the large blocks of challenges that we have with systems, with people, with processes. Only way to break them is to think beyond and think constraint free. I think this is the first thing that I try to do when I have these workshops. And we did a lot of workshops. It didn't happen like all of these. What you see is over a period of 3.5 years of, one is building the environment with the right people in the organization. 2 is building a team, a tiger team, which would actually deliver day in and day out. And 3 is to actually monitor after you've delivered whether it is effective or not. Because half of us, I mean, my job typically could have ended up saying that, oh, I delivered the transformation for you. Mm-hmm. But as a digital team, you cannot think like that. You have to think, my transformation doesn't end here. My transformation will never end. My projects will never end. You have to think about it like a product, not like a project. A product has its own life cycle, and that life cycle has to peak. You have to think in that specific PDLC or product development lifecycle model than actually a project management model, because you're not delivering just a project of enhancing customer experience or online digital experience for motor insurance. You're actually trying to figure out, how do I constantly increase my online conversions, either as a lead or as a customer, day in and day out, and keep improving on it. Right. So we had to get the right mindset of people first to help us identify what needs to be done. So there were this group of digital champions, all unique and great in their own space, who have extreme level of insurance knowledge, right? Because myself never came from an insurance background. So I had to learn all of it myself, but I had these great coaches and advisors who could help me, and I could actually tell them what we could do digitally for the challenges that they were facing. And that's the way we went about it. And it was all done like I don't look at roadmaps 3 years, 5 years and all of that, right? The transformation, if it's going to be 3 years worth of transformation, you should know that the transformation is not going to be successful. You know why? Every year the customer's expectations are changing. So the project that you started off 3 years back is no more relevant in a year's time. So why build products which are supposed to be done over 3 years? Build products that can be done in 3-6 months. Don't build large, difficult projects, because your customers would have evolved already. So the first motto is to get a team. The second is to look at achievable targets, incremental achievable targets. Don't have to go for large transformation where you're going to change the life of a customer. Please understand that you're a brand. You're helping customers be more protected at any one point in time as an insurance company. So the idea that we always thought of is, how do we make the customer feel more secure? How do we provide something for the customer which is a lot easier for him to buy and service for himself or herself? And the third one was, how do we measure whatever we do so that we keep making sure that whatever investments are that are going into this particular project actually give you the right ROI? Sure. Right. So once you identify what you need to do, then you have to build your team, right? And building a team is not difficult, not difficult, as well as it's not easy. It's like that process where you need to find the right like-minded people more than and right skill sets, rather than actually trying to find people to just do the job, right? So I look at that a little differently. But if you really look at, I think we focused on, it's very different. Again, having come from a tech background, having worked with startups, with companies which are mid-sized and large companies like a pharmaceutical company, I realized that insurance is very different, because we already have so much of knowledge, but we have very limited resources to execute and expose that knowledge to the customer. So the knowledge exists in people, right? But at the same time, how do you utilize that knowledge to make sure that it enables a great experience for your customer? It's always to enable a great business for the organization, but not necessarily look at it from an external perspective. So my job coming in was to look at it all from a customer's view. Don't necessarily hold yourself back because you don't have internal systems. We'll find ways to build or execute or workarounds around the existing system. But let's look at the experience, and it should be the best and the right experience. It should, if you are a brand which really cares for the customer, one is that you need to be a gold standard brand. So you need to be at the top of what you do. If you build something, it should be the best in the market. You will get outcast, you will get outclassed, and you will get outperformed at some given point of time if you don't keep evolving yourself. But when you first get it on the table, it should be one of the best that you have in the market. So the idea was always to build a team as well as build products that actually changed the way customers looked at us. And that, of course, with the insurance expertise, because I didn't come with one. So my idea was to get those champions in place. And it was tough. It was tough in the beginning for them to think. It's a lot of mindset change as well. But as they start seeing the opportunities that you have, the first 3-month project changed it all for us. So you make the first 3-month project, actually have them experience something called a mind map. So I use mind maps to brainstorm. And when I saw that, they were like, oh man, we should be using it for our work as well. Oh man, we should be using this somewhere else. So it's the way you use tools, techniques in these workshops that excite them. And if you are able to show enough excitement, you know that you can drive anything out of people, because they have so much knowledge. There's so much of knowledge in the company as well as in the team that we have. It's just that we had to channelize it towards a transformation or a goal of creating these digital products.
Yeah. Got it. Understood. Thank you for that. Now we all know that AXA is going through an acquisition by GIG, and perhaps who you considered as your competitor previously has changed. I mean, you don't have to name names, but has the customer segment that you considered as your target and the competitor you considered in the past, is it now going to evolve with GIG, and how will you differentiate this? GIG is a brand which is well known in the Middle East, but not as well known in the UAE. How would you differentiate that brand in this particular market?
So we still don't have a lot of, we still are in the process. So I can't speak a lot about it because we're still not there. But when you talk about customer segments, right, specifically when you're focusing on us as a company, irrespective of the name, right, AXA versus GIG, I think the company is, of course, built by this group of individuals, and we all are the same. We all are going to be here. So how we look at it, our competition pretty much remains the same, and the competition is to be better than yourself every day. Right. That's, it's again, it's cliched as well as it's something that motivational speakers speak about. I do believe that it's about upping yourself and evolving yourself. I think the faster you evolve, the easier you have your competition. It gets more difficult for your competition to outbeat you, right? So I think outperform you at any given point of time. So I think it's super important to kind of break your own benchmarks that you have actually set for yourself. But the competitions pretty much remain the same. It doesn't change at all. We're still going to be competing with the RSAs of the world. We're still going to be competing with the Oman insurances of the world. But I think I think it's less about the current news on the acquisition, more about how the market is evolving, right? You're not competing with just the insurers anymore. You're competing also on the aggregators space on where you rank. Point number one. You're also competing on how many of your keywords are used by some other brands. You're competing on that. These are the metrics that customers don't see.
Yeah.
Insurers don't necessarily always understand today. It's what a digital person can see and tell, that these are the metrics that we are actually competing against. We are competing against, of course, the Halas as well as the Halas of the world, as well as the Bimas. Bima, of course, is our partner, but those kind of business models. But we also will start competing slowly with the Amazons of the world as well as the Noons of the world, because they will make having so much of active user, monthly active and daily active user base on their platforms. They will either build their own insurance products, which is going to be tough. It's going to take its own course and time. or they will start working with partners, either you or with someone else, to already exist or to already cannibalize your existing share of market, or to get you new segments of users. So I think these are the competition segments that we would typically look at, and we are already looking at them. And it's not changed for the past 3.5 years. Me being in AXA, these are the things that we've been looking at. We've not just said that, okay, fine, we only have these 3 or 5 or 6 or 20 insurance companies in this market as our real competition. Our competition is also the aggregators. Our competition is also the traditional, not the traditional broker, because many of them are our partners, but we are also looking at these e-commerce companies where the engagement is so high that if they just turn out a simple personal accident cover, they will actually eat the market out.
Yeah.
Because they'll say, pay 20 dirhams a month, take a personal accident cover. You wouldn't even know what a personal accident cover means for you. You wouldn't know how much you're covered for, but you'll still buy it because it's only 20 dirhams a month. So it's these, the customer mindset, of course, is going towards these lines, and you're going to be competing with this. And of course, at the end of the day, you're competing with always the customer's expectation. These customers are coming in from existing mature markets many times. Some of them are coming from more less mature markets. So you're always competing with their original insurer in their country, right? As you start seeing more and more people coming into the country, they have existing, they have a mold of what they consider an ideal insurer. You have to look at that as well. You just can't just say that I have only these competitors in the market. So we consistently are looking at companies like Digit in India, Acco. We are looking at Lemonade, of course, the big names, right? You have the Lemonades of the world. We're also looking at Liberty Mutual, some of the bigger names in the US, how they work, how they go about their business, how they go about their digital channels. So we are not necessarily holding ourselves up and saying that, oh, we should only look at our market as competition. I think the customer's expectation, because it's such an expat market, comes from the countries that they are coming from and the kind of insurance companies that are available there. I look at Indian insurers every day. I look at Acco, I look at Digit, I look at Raheja QBE. It's a new motor insurance company. Again, all of it claims within 24 hours just using a video camera, your phone camera, all of these things. These are the changes that are coming in, and you're competing with this, because if you don't get it, somebody else will get it in the market.
Yeah.
Sense. You've stressed a lot around customer segmentation itself. Now, what are the channels that you are currently using to acquire these customers, and why? Could you talk through the reasons for those?
Yeah, sure. So mostly if you look at the marketing activities, are mostly BTL, below the line activities, which specifically focused on digital marketing. From the time our new CMO has come, Caroline, we've actually kind of improved our online presence a lot more, right? I mean, she's super focused, laser focused in terms of metrics, as well as we understand that the customers we are going to be more relevant on the online channel than on a hoarding on Sheikh Zayed Road. Right. So we did do some ATL campaigns specifically when it comes to radio and stuff, but we've not necessarily been we've not necessarily looked at other things like we do hoardings. I mean, we've done a lot of hoarding ATL work as well, but our focus has been targeted, specific, segmented. Again, we cannot speak specifically about what segments you're targeting. We're not necessarily making any. We don't discriminate. There's no. I mean, as an insurance company, you need to be a diverse customer base to make sure that you're hedging your risk across the board. But at the same time, what you're looking at is also you're looking at getting varied. You're looking at building building segmented offerings, if you may have to call it, right? So based on every segment, we have products that we have products where we have capabilities that is available to cater to that specific segment as well. Coming back to the point on what are major channels? Our biggest channel, of course, I mean, people still, I don't know how that happens still today, but there are customers who call into our call centers, which is 800-292 in UAE. There's still a lot of calls that come in. Our primary acquisition is through the online channel. So we have customers who see our impressions are looked at, our CT. We have click-through rates which define that customers land into our homepage or on a hosted page, which basically has the lead capture. So we believe that the online presence of AXA drives a lot of traffic to us. either through the physical channels, that is the, when I say physical, people don't like it because even the physical channels are digitally enabled through applications and all of that. But either through the traditional channels of a call center, shops, the shops are still prevalent because people walk in still for their queries or for buying insurance. Specifically, when you look at commercial insurance, people are more comfortable having a face-to-face advisor rather than speaking to somebody on the phone. So if you go beyond retail, that's one of the things that will happen. But predominantly, if you talk about retail, our customer base comes online. A lot of customer base comes online, and we look at, of course, where do they come from? Do they come from our social media ads? Which channel do they come? Do they come from our Google AdWords? Do they come from directly to our website because they know about us as a brand? All of that. So the major acquisition on the retail side is, of course, digital and the calls in. But on the commercial side, it's a lot of touch-based need that is required. You need, and depending on how big the commercial size is also. I mean, the SMEs always are more comfortable talking to you versus talking to you on the phone versus the larger guys want to meet you, and the procurement team want to understand what are the value-added services that you provide beyond just sending an email to them. So so these are our typical channels. But we also have more sophisticated channels, like we have win back. When we've lost a customer last year, so we do emails where we have win back emails. We have customer loss cross sells, existing customers cross sell. Somebody who bought right now, how do you cross sell to them? We do all of these things. We do drive some intelligence to the marketing piece as well. But again, the very detailed ways of looking at customers' profile and then kind of marketing specifically targeted towards them.
Got it. I mean, talking about channels, for let's say for the motor insurance piece, dealership has always been a very important channel. And now when you look at companies like Tesla, which announced in 2019 that it's launching its own auto insurance, now, does that worry you? What happens when this kind of manufacturer-led program comes to the Middle East?
It doesn't, the more the merrier. That's what I feel. They'll drive more data. I mean, they will drive a different way of looking at the customer. That's the interesting part, right? So today, especially in the Middle East, if you see data pay as you go, pay as you drive, or pay as you go, or pay as you pay based on how much you drive, is not prevalent. Again, a lot of complexities involved with it, and not all cars are connected cars. Let's acknowledge that as well. We still have a generation of cars which are not connected and which are not going to pass data to you. So some of these more data native companies, if I might have to say tech native, data native companies, can actually dab with that idea, especially Tesla, because they have their own information set which helps them price better. I don't see challenge. I actually am very excited when I hear such news, because you know that this competition is only going to make you better. So knowing how they will end up pricing, you will actually start learning how to price better those kind of products, and you're able to give a more competitive quote to your customer. You just have to find a way to be more, to be able to compete with them. I don't see that as a problem, to be fair. And you will see more and more of this happening as you talk, right? I mean, as we see in the next 10 years, the landscape of insurance in this region as well as in the world will change. People's buying behavior will not be preventive insurance anymore. It's going to be proactive insurance, which is basically to look at what the insurance gives me back rather than when should I not use insurance. Today, you buy insurance with the feeling that you should never have to use it, but tomorrow you will end up buying insurance so that you use it for something or the other. So that change in mindset is also going to drive new sets of competitors who will try to look at and exploit that side of the business. So it's going to, I mean, more and more new customers, new competitors are only going to create new segments, and we find a way to cater to those segments. On the topic of Tesla specifically, I think. It's going to be I mean, I wouldn't say they won't be. I mean, they'll pull it off. They have the right. I mean, they've already recruited the right set of people and all of that. But it's every market is different. So predominantly they can focus on it in the markets where they have a huge volume of vehicles. When you look at a smaller market like UAE, it's going to still take time. I mean, the electric car revolution is just coming in, but it's going to still take some time for them. So in the time that they actually get there, some of the existing insurers who have so much knowledge, if not data specifically on that specific vehicle, I think will also work to evolve themselves and find a way to get to, if not get better, at least match what Tesla is doing.
Right.
But it's good news. We are happy. We are happy that we have tech-focused competitors. Great for me, because you know what? It's very difficult to kind of explain why digital/tech is aiding. It's not why, it's how digital tech/tech aids driving more business to the insurance to the company. It's always, you have to explain, you have to be able to justify, which is not unfair. I mean, which is pretty fair. But with these guys coming in, it makes it very easy for us to kind of justify. You have Tesla doing it. There's no reason why you can't.
Why not us as well, right?
Yeah, the business case becomes easier.
Yes,
business case becomes easier.
Yes.
So my next question for you, actually, I think you have touched upon it earlier, but maybe a quick one. What are your views about the partnership between insurance companies and Insurtech space in the Middle East? Is it a matter of competition or collaboration? And I suspect you're going to say collaboration. And if you're already collaborating with some of them, maybe you can give us some details.
So you guys would know already that we collaborate with Bima. So Bima is and the products underwritten by AXA. And I think it's going to be all about collaboration, and this is where like I said, I broaden the term of Insurtech as not just acquiring the customer, but also servicing the customer, because beyond the acquisition, but a lot of other servicing capabilities is what is super important. So if you look at Bima as an example, I think it's about how they have the reach with their existing with Enoch and others, and their smart business model of trying to acquire the customer on the concept of how much you drive, right, and to have the ability to prove that back as well for the customer, saying that I drove only 25,000 kilometers or 20,000 or 15,000. Yeah. So I think more and more I see, like for the example of Hala, right, the way they are trying to build like a club concept, right, the club membership and how becoming a Hala member is exclusive and things like that. I think that's going to also, everybody has a different angle to it when it comes to acquisition. I do believe Insurtech will become more and more relevant when they start seeing the customer behavior. I think today what we look at from an Insurtech perspective is not what necessarily the customers want, but we see what we want to give the customer. Again, very different way. And then you provide an experience, and you're like, okay, we are better than all the other insurance in our funnel. That's going to solve the problem. No, unfortunately, no, it's not going to solve the problem. Right? It's about providing great service post the acquisition of the customer, as well as on top of it, to be able to keeping that quality of service high, so that the customer renews with you. The cost of acquisition of a customer in this market is very high. So if you have to even out at any given point of time, you need to at least have the customer for 3 years in your book. Yeah. Minimum. Right. And on an average year, the typical claims per customer is once in 2 years, once in 3 years. So on an average on the motor side. So if you really look at that, I mean, the good customers, of course, I'm not talking about the guys who have, there are problems, of course, with certain segments, but the good customers, of course, will be in this space. So I think it's important that we collaborate, right? And I do feel that we've had a lot of Insurtechs come over. I mean, I don't necessarily call them Insurtechs, Insurtechs who want to make a change, who want to work with us. Like, for example, the fintechs, I think there's a great play for fintech collaboration with insurance. Like, when you can buy a iPhone by paying after 3 months. Why can't you buy an motor insurance after paying after 3 months? It's still, if you have your average would be 2,000 to 2,500 dirhams. Why can't you pay after 3 months or equated installments in 3 months? So I think there is a great opportunity for collaboration. Yeah. Again, Insurtechs also create competition, so it's going to be a mix of both. But the collaborative elements are huge because we are not necessarily tech companies. We are tech-enabled companies. Yeah, right. It's not. We're not thinking tech first. We're thinking insurance first. So the insurance companies only the Insurtechs only add on top of what we already have. So again, building the knowledge of what an insurance company has built over 50 years is going to be extremely difficult for an Insurtech trying to come and disrupt. Again, if they look at it from a customer's perspective, they have the right people, it's easy to disrupt. But the 50 years of knowledge that you have, and insurance being such a complicated business to run and to build, you need that expertise. And when you have, it's all about collaborating with the right company, the insurance company, to help you reach the customer. And if you have the right brand behind you, customers are also more secure. Right? The customers want to feel secure about whom they're insuring with. Some new name, people are not going to take up that quickly.
That's right. Yeah. No, branding is important. Here's a question a little bit going back to what you discussed in terms of the, the capabilities and hiring of the team. And also we noted that you're pretty active on the digital front. So is it fair to assume that, you've got all the in-house resources in place? And what happens to an agency which is trying to knock on the doors, or a consulting house which is saying, I need to get some business from AXA/GIG? Has that now ended? How does that work now?
It's interesting. I have to unfortunately say no to all of them. I've had few conversations with the big names, and I say, we have the capabilities in-house. Yeah. So when I came in, right, I think the foundations of the team had started to just come through. So we just had business analysts, and we had a group of vendors, and we would work with the vendors. I think one of the things have come from a tech space and having an in-house team before, I know the advantages of the advantages of having a team and what it can give you in the long run, right? And it of course depends on the ambitions that you have. If you want to become a digitally focused, a digitally enabled company, and not if you want to be a digital first organization, you need to be able to make edits, changes. You need to be able to evolve your products, your online journeys on a regular basis. You can't necessarily wait that, I'm going to do it only once a year. That's not going to happen. And if you're going to get questioned about, why this vendor is going to take another 15 days to make this small change, right? It's not going to work. So I knew that, and that's where I first aligned. When I joined itself, I first aligned with my stakeholders as to what your ambitions are. Where do you want to be? Is this a channel of importance for you? Is this something that's going to change the way customers are going to buy insurance from AXA? Are you committing to this? And I think the unanimous answer I got was, yes, we want to work towards something which is more flexible. We want to work towards something which is going to evolve. And we do see that, I think there was foresight enough in the organization that digital is going to be the channel for the future, even before COVID-19. So I have seen consistent increase in the number of leads, as well as in the number of business that digital or the online channel provides to the company, right? So we realized, it was not too much of a business case to put on the table. We realized that we needed to build a team in-house, and these products are already there with, all the solutions we have to keep enhancing on top of what we have. So we have a very nimble team. We run it as products, each of them are products. The way we're very uniquely set up today in the organization. So we sit under the marketing CMO, and we work with the CIO team or the IT team. So it's very different from what typically traditional teams are set up, and that helps us because the CMO also has customer experience under her. It helps us to kind of think from that user perspective always. So we've got product owners or product managers, as we call it. We've got business analysts and product managers sitting in one area. We've got UX and UI experts. So we've got a UX lead, a UX architect, and then a UI design team, and the UI front-end development team. Then we have a core development team which focuses on engineering and building and enabling APIs for our partners. And then we have a strong, we have a QA team which does all the QA related stuff. So it's a full-fledged agile single team. So we've got a full Scrum team. We work on agile model. So we have got monthly sprints. Sometimes in some projects which are smaller, we tend to do weekly sprints if needed. But it's completely in-house setup. We of course have offshore teams to help us with quick deployments. Sometimes we need more support, so we have an offshore team model as well. But again, I prefer it's more slightly more sometimes maybe more cost intensive to have this, but it's driven by your ambition. If you see and seek to be a gold standard in the market when it comes to digital, you need to make these make this investment. Yeah.
So what are the three, and I know you may have many, but what are the top 3 digital metrics that you closely monitor when it comes to digital sales, and same when it comes to marketing? Now, how do you track your marketing spend?
So, I mean, when I look at the metrics itself, I kind of break it down into the sales element and the specific marketing. Right? So you have the click-through rates, which are the standard stuff on the marketing side, are the click-through rates that we look at. We look at CPA, cost per acquisition, cost per lead, CPL, cost per click is actually an offshoot of what you do as a CTR, and then you identify the cost per click. But I think the number of impressions that a particular post or a particular ad kind of gets to you is one very important metric when you look at from a justification standpoint as to whether you reach the right target audience, whether it was actually relevant to them, will be driven by the click-through rate overall. That relevance is actually given as a proof of the pudding with the clicks that you have. And then that goes further if it actually is accurate enough for your marketing campaign, is through seeing whether you actually got them as a lead or not. Was it relevant to them at that given point of time? You might still reach out to a lot of relevant audiences based on your segmentation, but it might not be relevant to them at that point of time. They might not want to buy insurance then. So these are specifically the metrics that we look at. When we look at the sales metrics, we always have, most of our sales is both, not all customers go full online, right? So they don't go end-to-end online. They still have a physical touch point. That's why I call it a phygital journey than a fully digital journey. So we look at the overall conversions online as well as the conversions on the channel, but which have originated from an online channel, from an online journey. We look at, of course, from a sales metric perspective, the amount of GWP that is driven either through renewals or through the new business. And interestingly, we also want to look at how many people actually went through, in case of motor, what type of products did they buy? Did they buy a third-party product? Did they buy a comprehensive product or comprehensive plus product like an agency product? We look at some of these things as well because it helps promote for that audience that specific product, right? For example, when we have the recommended section is different for different people. So if you have a car which is less than 2 years, we are not going to recommend you a non-agency product. Our recommendation is to give you an agency product. But if you have a car beyond 5 years, 3 years and above, we say, okay, a normal product, a normal non-agency product is also fine. So we also try to measure some of these things because we want to see what kind of behavior is the customer looking at. And each of these things, right, with the consent of the customer is monitored. We, of course, not specifically for an individual customer, for the audience set. So we've got all the tools in place to monitor them. So we've got Google Analytics, we've got Mixpanel, we've got Hotjar. And this is something that I see which is not relevant people don't use it in the insurance space as much because they don't look at themselves as insurance companies, as e-commerce companies. So the way I look at my unit or my setup is I'm an e-commerce focused company. My job is to make sure that more and more sales go through the online channel or generate leads for the company through the online channel. So I want to know more and more about my users, and I want to use all the tools possible to track how they behave on the channel. Yeah. So these are my top metrics, but also we've started to look at some of the other metrics, which is LTV, based on, of course, renewals. Now that we have renewals funnels online, we want to see LTV. We also want to see we also want to see the session time. We look at how much time does it take for the customer to be on our journey. Specifically, we look at certain pages. For example, before the customer comes in, typically we get customers coming from the product page, getting information about the product. So how much time they spend on the product page itself? Is the product page relevant? Is it giving enough pinpointed information? Are they scrolling up and down too much? Are they scrolling less up and down? Where are the clicks more? What are the heat maps in that page? All this information we are capturing. So we don't lose. There is, of course, a dashboard, an executive dashboard, but as a digital person, I look at everything. I'm pretty hands-on in some of these topics because I want to get to the point and try to solve that specific problem. If the customer is not able to understand a CTA, I want to solve it ASAP. We've even gone ahead and actually tested quote now versus buy now. Does a button, a CTA saying quote now versus buy now have a difference? So we go to that level of depth to kind of test and check if how the customers react, and all of these is metricized. So everything that we want, I mean, of course, it is not. We don't track individual users. You can't do that under any rules and any of the tools. But we do. The tracking is at a whole, from a perspective of the entire audience, and then we build audience sets out of it. We build funnels out of segments, and then we analyze them.
Very good. That's fascinating. And now stepping back a little bit, considering the whole digital space is ever evolving, and the challenge for any CDO is, indeed any business person, is how do you kind of remain personally in front of these changes? Like, that's one. And also, if you could give us some examples of technology adoption, like, blockchain, AI, IoT, for the digital business that you run, and with a focus on bank assurance as well.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know, AXA was one of the first blockchain insurance companies to adopt blockchain with a tool called Fizzy, right? So parametric insurance for this one. I don't know where it is right now. I'm not sure, but we were one of the first ones, and we got identified in a lot of press and all of that. This is not here in the region, but it was first piloted in Europe. It worked well, and I think it was with partnering with some parametric insurance company. But again, we had built something with using the blockchain and some kind of and low federated options, where it was more of claims adjudication as well as claims reference based on the blockchain itself. So again, personally, I read a lot because this is my job, so I have to be super relevant. I read a lot, and I'm super engaged in the tech space, not just here. Having to want to invest in startups, I've invested in a few of them, as well as having to mentor a few of them. You tend to learn a lot more about what's happening outside also. Yeah, and that's one way of, otherwise you can be really bogged down by what are your current challenges in your organization, because they look bigger than what they're supposed to be, right? So that's one of them. Of course, we indulge with a lot of Insurtechs as well, technology companies, to see what they have to offer to us constantly. Any new changes that we can do from an outreach, customer communication standpoint, any new things that we can do from ease of customer usage standpoint, we do all of that. So one of the elements that we will introduce is a OCR capability on one of our funnels, where you just have to take 3 photos. You just have to give us information, basic information. Our basic information capture on most of our funnels are very quick. So, for example, average time customer takes to see a quote is 1 minute today on an average, which is, I think, industry benchmark. I don't see anybody else who can do a motor insurance quote in a minute's time. So a good standard customer can get there. So what we want to do is use OCR for the further. We understood that the challenge for the customer after seeing the product is 3-pronged. One is the cost. The price might be very high. 2 is that there's a lot of information to fill online. And 3 is that they might not have all that information upfront at a given point in time. So we wanted to solve the second problem first, that we would want to make it easier for them to buy after they have selected a product. And that's where we have this 3-click and a buy, a 3-pick and a buy. So you have 3 pictures, you take 3 pictures of 3 documents, the OCR runs a scan on it, it will pick up all the information. You'll be asked for 2 or 3 additional information, and boom, you can go ahead and buy. So I can't say a dream, but the aim of 1 minute quote and 2 minutes buy is what we were focusing on. So after 1 minute quoting, in 2 minutes, if you select the product, you should be able to buy quickly. So that's what we want to do. And
that's pretty phenomenal.
With the OCR capability, we'll get there. It's been an exercise. So as we went about this process, also we A/B tested a lot. So a lot of people can see the OCR funnel. A lot of people cannot see the OCR funnel. So we A/B test with audience. We don't necessarily just give everything to everybody. So we want to first test and see whether this is actually useful, and we throttle the audience always. So if you see, first we will actually give it to 10%, then we see the 10% are not facing any issues, we increase it to 20, then 40, then 50. And then eventually if we see that the A and the B, the A versus the B has got some advantage, we will go with that. We've shared innovative projects after A/B tests as well. Having invested, we've shared these projects because it didn't make sense from a business, from either a conversion or a customer ease of use perspective. So we've done that. So I don't see innovation on the A/B test side also done in the market a lot. I do believe that people should actually have more and more A/B tests, because it helps you identify what's right for the customer, because the customers say it themselves. It's better than running a focus group. These customers don't know you can't see them face to face. The third area, of course, we've been looking at, and when you speak about bank assurance, I like to speak about this, is the journeys that we've built. We feel that they're real differentiators, and they really are different and better than many of our competitors in the market. And we can provide those journeys transparently to our partners as well. So one of the things that we've built is to have these journeys available as co-branded journeys for our partners, with capabilities to have the business being booked towards a partner and not on the direct channel. So we can actually do that within a period of 2 to 3 days. If we have a new partner, typically the partners don't require it that quickly. But if a banks say that, we want to sell AXA Insurance online, we can give them a wide co-branded journey within a period of 2 to 3 within 2 to 3 days, and they can enable it on their mobile channel, they can enable on their mobile app, they can enable on their internet banking, all of that. So
right,
we do see these advancements are some things that we see are very native specifically to us, and which are very innovative. And we've started to use these as our smart partnerships channels as well. So again, others will catch up. We know that, and we will find new things to innovate as we go along. So that's how we look at it.
Perfect. Sounds
Brilliant. Good. Yeah. Now, before we end, it's something lighthearted. Is there a message that you'd like to send to anyone from the insurance industry in the UAE? And this has to be someone outside of AXA, GIG. It could be a personal one. It could be a business one, but anything at all.
No. There's nothing specific, but super impressed with how the community is building. I think more and more. I think it's important for not just collaboration with Insurtech, but also the insurance companies and insurances to also collaborate as much. I think Addenda was an example. I think there are things that insurers can do smartly with necessarily not always having somebody intermediary doing it for you. Also, so I'm not going to pass on a specific message, but I love to have a digital, if possible, at some point in time, somebody me. I don't know if I can do it, but somebody senior in the industry to set up a digital center of excellence for insurances. I think that's a gap today that we see. I think there's enough knowledge in the market to help each other. I think there's enough. I know the insurance authority has done a lot to build regulations, but I think to help companies, not all companies are mature enough to adapt and get those regulations in place soon. So I think if there are a lot of bold people in the market, including me, and I think it's more of a it's more of a time gimmick. If we could build a center of excellence for digital center of excellence, DCOE for insurances specifically, I think it'll make a lot of difference. I know the digital insurer and some of the others are trying to do this, but I think more and more industry expertise and more people who've done it before and done it successfully should come forward and try to provide more information, and so that it becomes learnings for others to pick up. And we are constantly wanting to learn. It's not, if we've done it right, it doesn't mean that we don't have opportunities to improve. So we want to be one of those dangerous teams, right? Even if you're at the top, you still have room for improvement. And that you only learn from your peers. So if that is possible, and I'm hoping that the IA would eventually create this kind of facilitate. I think they facilitated some of this, but eventually have to. I think a proper formal working group will help us a lot. So I'm not going to pinpoint on any specific one person. I don't think it's possible to do that. But it just as a community, if it's possible, if people can come together to do this, I think it will be excellent.
That's a wonderful message. Absolutely. That can have a positive effect on the entire industry as a whole. So, as we come to the end of this, I just want to thank you for taking your time out. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've learned a lot. Vidya, I'm sure you'd echo that.
Yes, absolutely. Phenomenal insights. I'm personally impressed with everything that you've said. So thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed the
Perfect.
chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Bye then.
In my opinion.
Bye.